Welcome back to another episode of Why I Love BNI, your podcast spotlighting different businesses in different chapters and different regions on what they love about their business and being a part of the BNI family. So today I'm super excited to have my guest Michelle Rhea with us today. Michelle, thank you so much for the time today. I really appreciate it.
No problem. Happy to be here.
Awesome. Well, I mean, I feel like we're all, if anyone's watching this and they're like, well, maybe I'm new to BNI or I've been here for 20, 30 years, we're all going to learn something new today. I can guarantee that. So, Michelle, you're the managing director of Central Florida, which do you want to talk just a little bit about, what you do as the managing director and where you manage specifically, if anyone's not totally sure?
Sure. Yes. Florida Central is um, uh, it's 6 counties: Orange, Seminole, Osceola, uh, Lake, Brevard, and Indian River. And to go through
Perfect.
it for a second. So I cover 6 counties. We have about 40 chapters, a bunch in the works, and over 1,000 members. So I stay pretty busy, and my full-time job is helping to manage all of the chapters here in Central Florida and make sure they have everything they need to be successful.
Perfect. And I'd love for you to educate us just a little bit on what a managing director is. Maybe some people don't understand fully what your job is.
Yeah, the BNI regions are all run just a smidgen different. There's a couple different models of how they're run, and in our particular model, we have a managing director and a market development manager, and myself, the managing director, I oversee all of the existing chapters, and the market development oversees all the launching chapters. So as soon as they get launched and into active phase, after their phase 3, they come over to me, and I'm basically answer all the emails, answer all their text messages, all their questions, help them with any problems, hurdles, try and do, preventative help just to make sure that they're on
Mm,
the right track. They've got all the support they need. They're doing, their visitor days and helping support them through all those. So I more or less just help make sure that all the chapters have all the support they need to be a healthy chapter.
yeah. And especially maybe if you're new to BNI and you haven't been on leadership yet or anything of the sort, it's easy for us to think about, oh, it's not hard to do a BNI meeting. It's not hard to run a BNI chapter. You just kind of show up every week and we all just kind of say our little spiel and then we leave. But you know better than anyone, it's actually a lot more than that. And you need a lot of support when you're launching a chapter. My mom just recently was part of a launch chapter. I didn't realize they had to do even half of what they did. They were learning something new every week. But I'd love to hear pretty quick. I mean, how did you get into BNI? Who's the first person that invited you?
So I had my first experience in BNI about 20 some years ago, where my husband at the time he had a painting company, and I would sub for him on occasion.
Mm.
Ironically, he's still in BNI in one of my chapters as with his company. He swears by it. But so I had my first exposure years and years ago. And then about 5 years ago, I was getting into real estate, and I remembered how effective it was for his business. So I decided I would trying to get into BNI for my real estate seat, which of course is impossible. So I ended up doing a new launch and was a founding member for one of the chapters here in Central Florida. And then about 3 years after I was in the chapter, this position came open, and I applied and got it and love it. So I still do my
That's
real estate, but this is my
yeah.
full-time gig.
Yeah, that's so cool. Was there any specific reason you're like, this is speaking to me, or it was something you really loved about BNI? I'd love to hear that.
In my past life, I was in healthcare, and I was in a management position in healthcare, and I loved the management stuff, organizing,
Mm,
supporting, coaching, training, all that kind of thing. I've always kind of been drawn to. And so that was my favorite part of my job when I was in healthcare management. So when this came up, I just realized like I really enjoyed that when I was doing that. And this was a way for me to, still be able to do my real estate, but also be able to tap into some of those things that I enjoyed in that other career.
yeah. Is there anything that you've encountered on this in this role that you didn't realize you're going to do, but you've come to love it or anything like that?
I kind of joke with Tim Roberts, who owns our region, that I was very pleasantly surprised after I started working this role of just how much I would like it. I didn't really know exactly what to expect, so I don't know if there was things that I didn't expect that came because I don't think I knew what to expect. But
Right.
I I'm not going to work every day. Like I get to go do this. So it's just been
Wow.
really nice.
That's amazing. And it sounds like you love helping people and helping them guide them on the right direction. And that's pretty much what your role is constantly making sure people are cared for and they're getting the support they need to make sure that their businesses and their chapters flourish.
Exactly.
Awesome. Well, I'd love to hear because I know it's when it comes to BNI, when you're new to BNI, or even if you've been in here for 20, 30 years, it can get overwhelming at times. There's a lot to do, maybe, or there's a lot of acronyms or things to uphold that a lot of people get kind of intimidated by. But that being said, that there's always something new to learn. So, what is maybe a question you get asked a lot that you can answer here and kind of dispel the rumors or anything like that to kind of help people with when it comes to their BNI journey?
Two kind of things come to mind. One would be if BNI feels like a lot of extra work and a lot of box checking, um,
Mm,
then you've allowed it to get set up in your life to be something on your to-do list, not part of what you're using to build your business. So you wouldn't make those same comments about maybe, if you're in real estate and you're making, cold call type things. You wouldn't make those comments about the cold calls because even though they've got like a much lower rate of turnover and they take a lot more time, it if you're doing your BNI every week, if you're not careful, it can become just another thing on the calendar that you're trying to do, and it loses its effectiveness. So
mm,
I would say making sure that you always keep your BNI as the purpose of why you joined, which was to build your business. You look at it as part of your marketing plan, and weekly that's a marketing meeting you go to with other professionals that are helping you spread the word of your company. Like you've
right.
got to keep it on that basic level, so it doesn't become just another to-do list, because when it becomes another to-do list, you won't be effective with it because you'll just kind of check the box to get past it, and
Mm,
then it loses the meaning. And then I would say one of the biggest things is don't overthink it. Just do the basics. Focus
mm-hmm,
on your weekly presentation. Is it really effective, or are you thinking about it on the way to work or on the way to the BNI meeting and going, oh, what am I gonna ask today? Are you thinking about it while everyone else is doing theirs, so you're not really listening to theirs and you're trying to like throw yours together? Then it sounds like you definitely weren't prepared because you weren't, something as simple as your weekly presentation, taking the time to make sure that's effective,
mm,
um, is going to make your time more efficient. And it's
yeah.
not gonna make it feel like it's another thing to do that's a burden. It's a, "Here's my opportunity this week. What am I gonna do with it?"
Exactly. That's so great. Because like you mentioned, there's so many people who overthink different aspects of their BNI presentation or just things like that. But what's most important is, like you mentioned, is having your heart in it and going, "Hey, BNI family, like this is what's going to help me out this week." It doesn't have to get too fancy. You don't have to do a song and dance, which a lot of people in our chapter do, and it's really fun. It's not that, but you don't have to do that every single week. You don't have to go, "Well, how do I make sure that they constantly remember me?" And how do I make sure I completely stand out and all of these things, like how can it be as special as possible? But sometimes it's really not about that. It's letting people see like, hey, I'm just coming to you. This is what I'd love this week. This is how it'll help me. This is how it'll help the other person. And just keeping it as simple as that. And your BNI family will see, your earnestness and go, okay, this is a connection that makes sense. I want to help you. I want to help this other person as well.
Well, and you can have all the theatrics you want in a weekly
Right.
presentation, but if you don't actually have an ask, everyone just walks away going, "Well, that was impressive."
Yeah.
They mean well, they really did enjoy it, but if there's not an actual specific ask for somebody to go find a referral for you and you haven't taught them how to do it because they're not really your sales team, they're
Right.
people you're teaching to help find you referrals. They're not
Mm,
there to sell your product. They're there to find the right connections for you in the community. So if
right.
you lose that part where you get lost in how can I be memorable, and you forget to actually ask for something for them to remember, then you've just, you've just done a great job entertaining the room. Like make sure
Exactly.
you're back to the basics. Keep it simple. Did I leave this room with people going, I know where I can find that situation in my community? Are you
Hmm.
vulnerable enough as a member to go up to someone and go, hey, listen to my ask this week and tell me if you think you actually could find that situation in the world and connect me to them? Like, am I being clear? Ask for feedback.
Definitely. And I think that's so great that you highlighted because for me, I visited around a lot of chapters in my region here in Northeast Florida. And I've had a lot of fun doing it, especially because obviously my seat's open in most, pretty sure all chapters at this point now with the podcasting. So, I'm not stepping on anyone's toes or anything. But that
Mhm.
being said, I remember I visited a Port Orange chapter and I met a gentleman and he was only visiting at the time as well. He wasn't even a part of the chapter, but he mentioned it when he was a guest, he was like, "Hey guys, this is what I do. I'd love to be connected to roofers." And I think I would have met him maybe June, maybe
Mhm.
May, very long ago. But nowadays, I still send him referrals for different public adjusters and different roofers because that's what he said that day. He didn't say anything too special. It's not like we became best friends and I was like, I need to refer him everything. He just asked very nicely. He seemed like a good guy. He told me why he needed to be connected with them. I said, no problem. I know some roofers in my chapters. I know some roofers in some other chapters. I know some public adjusters in other chapters in my chapters. And I still remember and I still send him referrals to this day, and it's been what, 8 or 9 months since then. So it just goes to show that people will remember you as long as you educate them exactly on what you're looking for and why you're looking for it, which I think is really important.
Yeah, I like to liken it to a movie reel. So if I were to say to you, like, what's your favorite movie from when you were a kid?
Right.
What's your favorite movie from when you were a kid?
Oh, you're asking me, what was my favorite movie?
Or
Probably The
like
Little Mermaid.
Little Mermaid. What's a line from that movie?
Oh my gosh, I don't even know. It's like part of my world is like the
Yeah.
the song of all time
Okay, so
inside
if
of
you
it.
hear the phrase part of my world, if you're just sitting there having lunch with a friend or whatever, and in their conversation they say the phrase part of your world, you're immediately gonna think, oh my gosh, Little Mermaid. Okay, it's like a movie
Yes.
reel. Your brain will remember scenarios more than they'll remember, like, can you go buy me some milk? How many times do we send people to the store? We'll call out which people send people to the store and say, "Can you please get milk, egg, and cheese?" And they come back with milk, egg, Doritos, some Sprites were on sale, and like they missed something. Okay.
Right.
So when you create a movie reel versus a request, okay, I'm looking for this person. This is how you're going to know. This is what you're going to say.
Mm,
And you create that movie reel, that who, how, what movie reel. When situations like that play out, even if they're just vaguely related to that, and when they play out in people's life, that triggers them to remember, oh, Macy wanted to talk to this person. And then
right.
that person can go through trying to make that connection. But if all you've said is, I do roofs, I'm looking for anyone who lives in a house, and you'll come across 100 people that live in a house, but there's nothing in that conversation that's going to lead you to go, you need to talk to this person. So create that
Hmm.
movie reel of a request.
Exactly. Oh, that's a great point because I've heard so many 30 seconds, 60 seconds where they're like, I just want to help anyone who has, hands or nails. And I'm like, okay, yeah, but like how is that
Yeah,
necessarily, how am I going to make sure that person understands the value of what you're doing? How do I really make sure it connects for them? Because I want to give you as warm as a referral as possible, not like, oh yeah, I know my best friend has a face, but she doesn't know anything about what you do. She actually doesn't care about what you do at all. But
right.
I'll make that connection because you said anyone with a face. And it's like, well, that's not gonna help either of us. It's not gonna help me, my friend, it's not gonna help you. So now where it's all kind of like awkward. And then that's when that whole like BNI doubt, I think, starts to happen. It's like, well, these I'm not getting great connections. And sometimes, that might be the case, but a lot of the times it's we're not doing our job to educate our BNI family and what it is we're looking for and why.
Exactly. There's a lot of times where people have come to me and said, I'm just not getting the referrals I thought I would get. And I go, great, let's do a one-to-one. And I say, all right,
Mm-hmm.
we're in your meeting. Tell me your 60 seconds. Take
Mm,
a few minutes, think about it if you need to, but like, what would you say in
right.
60 seconds? And in almost every single one of those one-to-ones where we did that, their 60 seconds was nothing more than an education of what they do for a living.
Right.
If you want to throw that in once, that's fine. But at some point, we know what you do for your living. Like, we just want you to tell me, how can I help you? It's like members are begging subconsciously, I think, tell me how to help
Definitely.
you, but the
Yeah,
information is not getting there. So weekly
exactly.
presentations is something I've done a lot of focus on over the last couple, like, quarters, probably doing a lot of like just little workshops, trying to help people get through that. And if you listen to Tim's podcast, the who, how, what is exactly what I take all of it off of, in our advanced training for weekly presentation. So it's just getting back to those basics. You want
Mhm.
to be really good and efficient and master things, but sometimes you learn the most not going on to the next skill, but making sure you still have the first one.
Definitely. I was just interviewing a lady in St. Augustine, BNI, and she's been in BNI for about 13 years, she said. And I
Mhm.
was like, oh, is there anything new or anything that's changed? She goes, well, actually, I just redid my MSP because it's been so long. And
Right.
it was so helpful to go back to the basics, relearn everything that I maybe strayed away from or forgot or didn't realize this thing updated or, BNI Connect is always updating, stuff like that. And she was able to go out there and really help improve, her 30 seconds or one-to-ones, everything like that. And she's like, I kind of forgot a lot of the stuff in MSP. So that it just goes to show that it's really important, even if you've been in BNI for your entire lifetime, maybe, or you just started a few months ago.
We
MSP is
encourage
super helpful.
everyone to redo
Hmm.
it every year. Like
Yeah.
we're actually going to do a push pretty soon to try and encourage everyone to redo it, because it's just you for you go in with you listen to that information and you glom on to about half of it, and then you get really good at about a quarter of it. So going
Mm,
back now that that quarter of stuff is like second nature, go back and get some more information. And then
exactly.
maybe you walk away going, okay, cool. I've got some new 50% information like that I'm going to really try and work on, and now I'm going to get really good at another quarter of it. It's hard to get really good at all of the little things.
Yeah,
You got to get good at them, let them become second nature, and then add on some more information. So we always
exactly.
encourage everyone to do it again.
Yeah, and like I was sharing before we started recording, is our managing director just very recently visited our chapter, and she did our education moment was just a little quiz on thank you for closed business, and I think we all were quite humbled on our
Hmm.
knowledge when it comes to thank you for closed business, and it was all questions that were pertinent to a lot of our businesses, right? Like how does it count towards your power of one? Where does it show up on your power of one? And then it was a trick question that it doesn't. We're like, okay. And then you have like what do you count as thank you for closed business? Where do you log it? Who logs it? How is it counted on your name? And all of those things that we definitely need to know, especially when it comes to contributing to our chapter and making sure our chapter's numbers are what's the word of as up to date as possible. So there's always something new to learn. So I think that was a great point.
Well,
So
and when we
mhm.
started this, for whatever reason, I had in my mind that you were Northwest Florida. Now
Oh
you're Northeast Florida. Like
yes.
you have one of the best managing directors in the.
Oh thank
So
you.
just take whatever she says and glom onto it because
Yes,
she knows her stuff.
she definitely does.
I
She's
want to be her when I grow up.
oh she's definitely doing a great job, and she was recently a part of helping my mom's chapter in Palm Coast. They launched a second chapter, and she was there every single week. I think she lives in St. Augustine, possibly, or Jacksonville, so it's a drive from to Palm Coast, and she was
Yeah.
doing it, making sure that, every week my mom was coming home. She was going, "Did you know this?" I was like, "I didn't even know this about BNI. I did not know this. You need to do any of this." So it was helpful for my entire family, who's all part of
Mhm.
BNI. So definitely. Well, Michelle, thank you so much for the time today. This was awesome. There's so many great tidbits in here. I don't even know if I can pinpoint at least three. Like there's at least 30 in here for me to take away and start applying to my BNI journey. So I appreciate you taking the time today. This was a blast.
No problem. Take care.
Of course. And to everyone watching, I really appreciate you as well. And I'll see you next time. Bye.